morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today, this morning, enjoying some of the upbeat music on this gray and cold, dreary day in October. Welcome to our last day of our Interfaith Symposium. Full spending these 4 weeks with everyone. Today we have Kelly Sachter from Family Connections talking to us about strategies for self-care and mindful meditation. I'm sure we can all appreciate that. Just a little housekeeping before we move on. Okay, for those that are joining us for the first time, Family Connections Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention Team Coalition, ADAPT, is dedicated to reducing substance abuse and improving our overall health of all residents in Essex County. The ADAPT Interfaith Committee empowers our faith-based leaders of Essex County to understand and engage in issues affecting overall wellness in their communities. Our chairperson is Quinera Curry, who is one of our co-hosts. She is waving. Our vice chair is Michael Doherty, and our secretary is Demetricia Barnes. Both Michael and Demetricia are in two of the attendees as well. So your audio and video are turned off during the presentation webinar. However, you can use the Q&A box or the raise hand feature to ask your questions. If you do the raise hand, we can allow you to speak, and then you can ask your question at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be going live on Facebook shortly after this slide, so just wanted to let you know. This webinar is also being recorded and will be added to ADAPT's YouTube channel. At the end of the presentation, if you can complete an evaluation, it will pop up when you've finished the webinar. And we are having a raffle today. Today is the last day, and our drawing will be held during our afternoon session during opening remarks. You will receive 2 entries for participating in this webinar and 5 for participating in our resource fair. Please do join us this afternoon at 2 o'clock to hear from our various providers in prevention, mental health, and substance abuse, talking about their programs and resources available for the community. Okay, and just FYI, if you can follow, like, share, and subscribe to our various social media channels. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. All of our sessions have been recorded and are available on our YouTube channel, as well as other various videos of our committee members speaking to why they've joined and why they've continued to work with us. So they're all wonderful videos to see, as well as some other PSAs as well. Our hashtag, if you want to post about your virtual experience, if you can just take a picture of your virtual setup, your computer, or just your screen, and then you can add hashtag 2020 Interfaith Symposium and tag us at Essex Adapt. Okay, so at this point, I am going to put us on Facebook Live. Okay. Hello and welcome. Welcome to our last day of our Interfaith Symposium, Adapting to COVID-19, Spirituality and Wellness. My name is Jessica Delgado, and I'm a coordinator at the ADAPT Coalition. This symposium has been brought to you by Family Connections, the ADAPT Coalition, the County of Essex, and the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. Today's session is focusing on strategies for self-care and mindful meditation during COVID-19, and it's being presented by Kelly Sachter from Family Connections. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Kelly to present.
Good morning, everyone. So welcome to the last day of a wonderful symposium that I am very fortunate to have been able to be a part of. It's been really wonderful being able to get to know all of you virtually. So today I'm here to talk about strategies for self-care and mindful meditation during COVID-19. And as Jessica stated, I am also a Family Connections employee. I am a director of programs over at Family Connections. And I've been very fortunate to really learned so much since working for Family Connections for the past 10 years, to learn from the families that we're working with, to learn from the individuals, the staff that we're working with, and I'm very honored to be here today. So I wanted to start today with a brief meditation. So we started off today actually dancing, which is very much my self-care. It's something that I do with my children every single day. After dinner, we throw on some music and we dance to let out all that energy. And so dancing is definitely, and music is a part of my self-care. But another big part of my self-care is about centering. And so right now I'm going to ask us all to center together. So if everyone can just be aware of your body position, have your feet solid on the floor. If your legs are crossed or you are sitting in a chair, just uncross your legs so that way they're next to each other. You want your feet to be grounded on the floor and also to find a neutral spine. So that might require you to move back and forth, to move side to side, so that way your spine feels neutral. Now I want you to take your left shoulder and raise it to your left ear. So raise it up to your left ear to feel that tension, and then just release your shoulder down. Do that again with your right shoulder to your right ear, lifting it up, touching your ear. Feel all that tension and let it down. We're going to do that a couple more times. So left shoulder to left ear, and release. Right shoulder to right ear. Release. And one more time on each side. Left shoulder to left ear. Release. Shoulder to right ear. Release. So we often hold a lot of tension in our body and a lot of tension in our shoulders. And so that's why we're starting there. Now I want you to find your feet and ground through your feet to the ground. If available right now to yourself, if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes, or if you want to gaze towards the ground and allow yourself to really arrive to this current moment. Once your eyes are closed or your gaze is softened, notice your body and the way it is in this time and space. We're going to do a scan from either the top to the bottom of your body or the bottom to the top. You can choose which way you go. And as you start to scan through the different parts of your body, allow yourself to notice each part. So it could be starting with the head and noticing the tension in your head or the relaxed feeling in your head and moving down through the body. It could be starting at your feet and how they're grounded into the ground that supports you and moving up. You're going to allow yourself to notice and what you're feeling at this time. Some parts of your body might feel open, strong, supported, or supportive. Some parts of your body might feel tired, tight, and constrained. Whatever that feeling is, just allow it to feel the way that it feels in this moment in time. What we want to do with our bodies and ourselves is work with what we have and just allow our body and feeling to scan through and feel a new balanced state. So if there are certain areas that are feeling more tense and tight and constrained, breathe into those areas and try to release and relax. As we're running through our body, start noticing your breath. Notice where your breath lands. Is it in your upper chest, your diaphragm, or your lower abdomen? And together, let's all take a deep breath in and exhale a full breath out through the mouth. Continue to breathe as you're scanning through your body, noticing which areas of your body are open, strong, supported, or supportive. What areas of your body are more tired, tight, or constrained. Bringing your awareness back to your breath to breathe into those areas that need a little more work. We're just going to take a couple more breaths together to come together into this moment. So taking a breath in and out. Taking another breath in and out. And taking one last breath in together and out. And as you're comfortable, you can come back to this moment, to this webinar that you're at today, opening your eyes when you're ready. Okay, so welcome back. So I hope that everyone's feeling comfortable in the space that we are today. One thing that COVID-19 has done has really kind of thrown everything up into the air. And with the unknowns, with not knowing what tomorrow will bring, there are so many additional stressors to the stress that we're already feeling. And so the most important thing about self-care is that there are 4 things that we do. The first thing that we do is validation. So being validated for what we're feeling, and we're going to go into each of these. We want to be able to identify and name the different stressors that each of us have. We want to be able to self-monitor how we're feeling in our bodies and mind. And then we want to be able to provide self-care and support. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing that we need is validation. So when I love this image came across my Instagram feed the other day, and when I saw it, I was like, this is perfect. So in general, as humans, we're walking around having regular anxiety. So whether that's anxiety about work, anxiety about children, anxiety about aging parents, anxiety about other relationships, there's a regular anxiety that all of us hold. And when we're walking through life, when we see other people, we don't know what those anxieties could be, that person could be experiencing at that moment, but we know that there are different levels that anyone could be experiencing at any given point. And COVID came along. And so with COVID-19 came the anxieties of the fear about yourself or loved ones getting sick. Maybe it was about being isolated and having to lock down, and in the situation that you're in. There's so many different anxieties that come along with COVID. So in addition to that regular anxiety, all of a sudden you're holding COVID anxiety too. Then next week, a lot of people are having anxiety about the election. I'm having anxiety about the election. So there's that on top of that. So now all of a sudden you're juggling all this additional anxiety. And then the last image is really just continuing to add those things. And so really thinking about validating, we all are carrying all these different rocks of anxiety right now. COVID-19 has added more to it. The awareness of racial injustice and the increase in racism that has occurred in this country is another anxiety. So really just being aware, validating that we are all experiencing a lot right now is the first thing that we could do to work for ourselves. Validate, it's okay, this is normal, it's okay to have anxiety. And how can we, being aware of it and validated about it, help us to provide ourselves with some more self-care. So the next thing that we should do is start identifying and naming the stressors. So really thinking about what are our push buttons? What's my push button? If I am aware of, yes, I have this anxiety that I'm already holding, but what really makes me feel like I'm going to be pushed over the edge? When my push button might be, well, one of my push buttons might be when I'm running a presentation, all of a sudden I hear my children running in the background, and oh, are they going to come into the room right now? And how do I control that? And how do I continue to still be able to present in those moments? That's a push button for me. And so me being aware of that, so that way when it inevitably potentially will happen during this presentation, I could just say, okay, right, I know this is a stressor for me, and I'm not going to let it overtake me. So if people can just, if they're comfortable, put in the chat, what are some of the push buttons that you're all experiencing right now on a regular basis? If you're comfortable, you don't have to, but if just to, so we could all look and validate, like, yes, this is hard. This is a hard time for people. What are your push buttons? Are people aware of their push buttons? I can't actually see the chat. Oh, because there's some coming in. Okay, longer nights and shorter days. Yes. So I'm validating that for you. Even today, I woke up and it's not even sunny out. So it feels like it's still, these shorter days are even shorter when it's dreary like this. That's definitely a push button for me. Okay, you're welcome for validating you, Felix. Any other things that people want to name and acknowledge? Winter is coming. Yes, absolutely. So in addition to COVID-19 and the election stressors, it's getting colder. We were just talking about this as people were coming in, as it's going to be a high of 46 degrees, I think Gwenera was saying tomorrow. That's cold. And so just knowing that also can make us more secluded in our houses as things get cold. Doing shopping in COVID, yes, absolutely. Validating that for you. Doing shopping can be a lot more difficult. It can raise that anxiety of going out in public, touching all the different things that you're touching. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing your push buttons, and continue to think about, you don't have to put it in the chat, but think about what are your push buttons, because when we're able to identify and name those things, then we can help to prepare to get ahead of it. So the next thing that I'm going to have to do, the uptick in possible quarantine, and again, yes, validating that for you, and yes, that is a push button for many of us, is really thinking about what is that going to be like to be secluded again. So the next thing that we want to do for ourselves in order to really care for ourselves is be aware of where we are at any given moment. So having an ability to self-monitor how we're doing. Our bodies and ourselves have different levels of energy at any given time. Sometimes I might have a lot of energy and be at and we're looking at a scale of 1 to 5. So I might be at a 5, and that's really good when I'm presenting and I have energy and I feel like I could do this, or when I'm going for a run, or when I'm cooking and I want to be aware of a lot of different things. It's good to have an energy of a 5 at that moment. If my energy is more like a 1 at that moment and I'm feeling lethargic and sluggish, that's not really helpful at that moment. However, if my energy is at a 5 and it's 11:30 at night and I'm still, my brain is still going like this, that's not helpful for me in being able to calm down and get the sleep that I need for the evening. So then you really want your energy to be down more. So energy between a 1 and a 5, it's not about like a 1 is better than a 5. It's about how does your energy fit your current moment, and how are you comfortable in that for what you need to handle, what tasks you have to handle at that given moment. So I'm just going to do a little poll so we could see where people's energy is right now. So if you could think about how you're feeling in this given moment from 1 to 5, how would you rate your energy right now? Everyone see the poll? Yes, I see numbers coming in. So people are feeling 3s, 4s, 2s. Keep on rating. We're about halfway there. People are rating how they're feeling in this moment. Okay, we have 56% that have voted. Any other people that are wanting to vote on this poll? So one thing that I really appreciate is in a webinar. So when I'm used to presenting in person, I could feel the energy of the room. So because we're very synergistic beings. So I could feel, how people are coming into the room and the energy that they're giving out. In a webinar like this, it's really hard to know where people are. And so do I need to be more upbeat to bring people up a little bit, or do I need to calm down a little bit because I'm making people anxious? So that's why, just having an energy check for me right now is helpful to get a pulse of the room. But it really, the purpose of this right now is for you to be aware of your own body and your own energy level and how that's helpful. So I'm going to end the polling now so you all can see where we're at. So right now, everyone's kind of in the middle, which is good. That's good for, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't share the results. So for the most part, 70% of us are at a 3, which is good. We're not too high energy where we're wanting to run around and, you know, run out the door. We're not too low energy that we can't even stay focused. So 3 is a good place to be at when you're sitting in a webinar. We have some people that are at 2, some that are at 4. I'm probably more like a 4 to a 5, which is where I want and need to be at this moment. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. So being aware, self-monitoring, and getting to know where your energy level at any given time is important for self-care. And then the last thing that we want to do is really think about self-care and support. So there are many of us that are caregivers for, whether it's for children, whether it's for parents, whether it's for other adults in our life, whether we work at an agency and we're taking care of others. And one of the most important thing that we need to do is put on our oxygen masks so that way we can take care of others. And I think I've shared this in many trainings before, but I remember the first time that I was traveling with my 3-month-old on an airplane, and they said, put your oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on someone that you're caring for. And initially I was like, no way, I'm going to save my baby first. I need her to get the oxygen that she needs. And then I thought about it and said, you know what, if I am not breathing, if I'm having trouble breathing, then I'm on the floor, and who's caring for this 3-month-old? And so that analogy is just so important to think about all the time, is what are we doing to care for ourselves so we're able to be there for others? So self-care and support is what we need to do. There are a lot of different ways that we can practice self-care for ourselves. And there are different ways that we gravitate towards at different times. And we need to have a lot of different options. So here are some options of different types of self-care that we could do. There's the physical self-care. So that could include getting enough sleep. So going to bed on time, making sure your energy is down so you're able to go to sleep on time and get a full night's rest. Sleep is one of the most important things that we could do for ourselves. Eating right. So making sure that we are reducing the amount of fast food or high sugar things, and really thinking about like what are the fruits and vegetables and healthy foods that we could be eating. Other things for physical self-care could be about exercise. So that dancing in the beginning, that is my physical self-care. When I'm able to dance every night and get out that energy and be physical, that is a huge part of self-care for me. Another type of self-care is psychological self-care. So psychological self-care could be when we're really struggling and we need to talk to someone. So when we need to really think about psychologically, what do I need? Is it time for me to maybe go to speak with a therapist? Are there some support groups that are out there? One of the wonderful things about social media is with COVID-19, before social media, we would be very separated from each other and not be able to connect with each other in the same way that now we are able to. So the support groups, different groups on Facebook, different groups on just being able to connect with people in different ways can be psychological self-care for ourselves. There's also meditation and mindfulness, which we'll talk more, is another great way for psychological self-care. Psychological self-care could also be expression in different creative ways. So whether it's creativity in music, in journaling, in drawing, those are different ways of psychological self-care. Social self-care. So social self-care I have as bigger than the other ones, because one thing that we know is that social relationships with other people is the #1 factor in resilience. So when we're feeling stressed, the way that we could heal the best is with other humans. So who are the people in your lives that you can look to, that you are comfortable with, to talk about what's going on for you? Being able to have that back and forth in relationship, that is your #1 self-care that you could do. And that's where COVID-19 has become very difficult for people, because while we have because we've lost our physical connection with people. We have the physical connection of the people that we might live in our house with, but we've lost the ability to connect with people as much as we did before in person. Giving hugs. I mean, one of my friends said something that I just loved the other day. She said, "I just can't wait until I could just take you into my lap and hug you." And I've never sat in my friend's lap before in my life, but she was just like, "I need that physical connection of just seeing your best friend and being able to give them a hug and a kiss and say, how are you?" COVID-19 has taken a little bit of that away from us. And so one thing that has come up a lot is with social distancing, and it's not about, what we want to do is not necessarily social distancing, but physical distancing. So how can we change our social interactions so we're still able to be connected with each other socially without but are making sure that physically we're staying distant, so we're not getting each other sick potentially. Another way of self-care is more moral and spiritual self-care. So morally, what can we do, and spiritually, what can we do to care for ourselves, to care for the greater good of life? Are there different, whether it's going to church, or virtual church right now potentially, or is it about meditation, which connects you to spirituality? Is it about some moral spiritual care that you could do? Can you give back to your community in some way, whether it's organizing donations for those that need it, or doing some other things, calling and advocating with your politicians for moral causes that you believe in, making sure to vote in the election. And hopefully you all sent in your ballots already. If not, there's only a couple more days to really get in your ballots and think about how can you make sure that you are doing what you can to care for yourself and to care for the world. And then lastly is professional self-care. So that self-care could be attending a training. It could be doing some research. If there's a topic that you're interested in, doing some reading up on that. And the more that you get knowledge, the more psychoeducation, that helps you with your self-care as well. Okay, and I'm just looking back. There was some other push buttons that were mentioned. Increased work expectations that are not easy to manage during COVID due to a myriad of restrictions outside of one's control. Getting dark earlier, constant meetings, especially after 6 p.m., dealing with others exhibiting high emotional stress. So I hear you, Sheena, and those are all big stressors. And so I'm definitely validating all those stressors that you have. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so mindfulness. So mindfulness is a type of self-care that we could do for ourselves. And it's something that we could do at any time. Here you'll see a picture, and there are two bubbles. One is, are you mindful? Oh wait, sorry, I can't really see my screen right now. So I can make sure to get this right. Is your mind full, or are you being mindful? So if your mind is full, there's all these different things that are coming at us at all different times, whether you're sitting in traffic, whether you have someone calling you on the phone, that there are deadlines coming up for work, some of the things that Sheena mentioned, or all those things that are coming at us constantly. And so our mind is constantly full with all the different things that are happening to us from the outside. Mindfulness is being able to really take a step back and think about what is going on in your mind, what's going on in your environment. So being able to see the trees through the forest, right? So one thing that there's with mindfulness, one thing that they talk about is and it's not a new concept, but it's relatively new in terms of studying it and really looking at how beneficial it can be. So we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits. But mindfulness can be seen as exercise for our minds. So instead of exercising our body, doing that physical self-care where we're building muscles and increasing our cardiovascular strength and different things like that, mindfulness can actually exercise the brain and make this brain stronger, and with that can increase some of the physiological responses like increasing cardiovascular activity. Okay, so, and what we look at is mindfulness as a superpower. So it's something that we have in our power at any given time, and it actually can be a superpower that can help us. So I'm going to play this video, and just if I guess if you guys can give me a heads up that you could hear it. Thank you.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. So I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
I was muted. So we all have these superpowers within us. So isn't that really exciting that we all have this superpower? And what they found is that in looking at mindfulness, is it actually creates something called allostasis. And so what allostasis is, it's kind of like homeostasis, except it's within our entire bodies. So it's the interplay between stress exposure, internal regulation of physiology, and health outcomes. So allostasis, like you said, it's not going to stop. Mindfulness will not stop the stressors from coming. It's not going to stop COVID. It's not going to stop all the other stressors that we're feeling on a regular basis. But it's something that can help us to be aware of our internal state and internal regulation, and help our physiology, and can potentially provide positive health outcomes. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the health outcomes that they found. When we're experiencing constant stressors, and for some of you might have been on the other training a couple of weeks ago where I talked about the ACEs study and resilience. And so what we know is that the constant stressors can impact our brain and cause something called danger brain. What we do know as well, though, and what they've started to really research and find, is that, and stress, because it causes this danger brain, it causes our sympathetic activation. So it causes our breathing rate to go up, it causes our heart rate to go up, and it causes all these physiological responses that can then shut down our ability to develop our prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, our executive functions. What they have found is that mindfulness and meditation actually increases the parasympathetic activation. So what it can do is increase the plasticity that our brain has, the ability to, instead of getting that danger brain where we're not developing and we're not activating that prefrontal cortex, it actually helps us to rewire and to increase the ability to the ability to have resilience. So this mindfulness bingo, and I looked up this website and it doesn't actually exist. This was something that I found on Instagram, and I'm really, so it does say the website down there, but it's not actually a website, and I'm upset about that because I would love to credit them, but I don't know who they are because they don't exist anymore. But this is a really cute thing that that you'll all get, and you could think about how can I get bingo today? So how am I able to be mindful in all these very easy situations, and just take a second, take 5 minutes to think about some of these things. So it could be carrying out a chore mindfully, like dishwashing. So we might have to wash dishes and we think like, oh, I have to wash the dishes and it's really frustrating. But how can we actually take the time to wash the dishes and be aware of the water that's coming down over the dishes, the soap that's bubbling up, the motion that we're making? If we're able to really, instead of just doing something as a chore, instead doing it mindfully and taking a second to think about what we're doing, to hear the sounds that we're hearing, to feel the sensations, that can help that plasticity that we want in our brain to rewire and to be focused on that moment in time, and can be really helpful. So what I want you all to do next in the chat is we're going to do like a quick little mindfulness thing. So, and you'll see it says name the next 3 sounds that you hear. So everyone, I want you to be aware of what's in your room and what you could hear, what's in your environment. What are the 3 sounds that you could hear? And put that in the chat. It could be my voice. It could be something else. Right now, I'm hearing an airplane outside that I wasn't noticing before, but now I do. What are the things? Oh, someone's hearing raindrops. What are some other things that people are hearing? Purring, a cat purring. Yes, animals can be a really great way of expressing, having some mindfulness, being able to get into their, to pet a pet and to really just feel that moment. Voice from the office, a truck, her daughter in her Zoom class. Yeah, there's lots of noises that we're hearing constantly that are all in the background. And so what mindfulness is really just taking that, being aware of it, noticing it, and then letting it go. Excellent. Great job naming your sounds. You all just practice mindfulness. Okay. So what they have also found is that mindfulness has a lot of health benefits. So some of those health benefits is reduced stress. So we've talked about that a little bit. That's why we're talking about it today. We want to reduce stress. We want to increase self-care. And what they found is the more that people practice mindfulness, the more we're able to calm down and increase our parasympathetic reactions to reduce the stress. There's also been studies that have found an enhanced ability to deal with illness. So there have been studies that have done with cancer patients where mindfulness has not only helped the cancer patient to deal with what they're experiencing, but also for the caregivers that are caring for people that are struggling with cancer to deal with the emotions that go along with that. There's also been studies that looked at facilitating recovery from health problems. So with some autoimmune disorders, there is, for example, multiple sclerosis. What happens is that there are plaques that are built on the brain, and it actually stops the synapses from being able to communicate with each other, and can cause memory issues, can cause a lot of different processing issues, as well as emotional regulation. And what they found in one study is that when using mindfulness, it actually helped to decrease depression, to increase the ability to process some things that were difficult before. And so there's some really promising studies that are being looked at, is how can mindfulness actually help people that are really struggling with these lifelong health issues, whether it's autoimmune or cancers. They've also found in many studies that utilizing mindfulness has decreased depression, and it also increases preventive health. So people that are practicing mindfulness on a regular basis are more likely to be going for their preventive health appointments, to be exercising, to be eating right. So these things often go hand in hand. So those are some of the health benefits. Okay, now I have to go out of this one. So I'm going to show another video, which is the scientific power of mindfulness. Let me stop my share for a second, because this has to be out of the screen. Okay. So that way you're not just listening to me talk about it. Here's an actual video. Can you all see the video?
When we see Pleiadian shapes, we see a sphere of light, because it's...
For thousands of years, people have practiced meditation for spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. But from a scientific perspective, how exactly does meditating affect your body? Does it really do anything? It all starts in the brain. During meditation, brain scans see increased activity in regions directly correlated with decreased anxiety and depression, along with increased pain tolerance. The default mode network, in particular, is activated when one's mind is at rest and not focusing on the outside world, and has been found to improve memory, self-awareness, and goal setting. Want to be more caring to your friends and family? When scientists compared the brains of Buddhist monks to new meditators, they found the region of the brain associated with empathy to be much more pronounced in the monks. It also literally changes your brain waves, and we can measure these frequencies. Meditators have higher levels of alpha waves, which have been shown to reduce feelings of negative mood, tension, sadness, and anger. And if that wasn't enough, it also physically changes our brain shape and size. Studies found that after 8 weeks of a meditation program, gray matter was more dense in areas associated with learning, memory processing, and emotion regulation. And yet the amygdala, which deals with stress, blood pressure, and fear, had decreased gray matter. When we look at the entire body, not only do we see decreased blood pressure, but it can also increase the variability of your heart rate. And while this may sound harmful, it actually plays a critical role in properly transporting oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout your body. Think you're getting sick? In a study where both meditators and non-meditators were given the flu virus, meditators were able to produce a greater number of antibodies and had increased immune function. If we go a little deeper, we can even see changes on a cellular level. Your chromosomes have protective protein complexes called telomeres, which help reduce damage to your DNA and lower cell death. And a shortened telomere length has been linked to several diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and cancer. Amazingly, when cancer survivors completed a meditation program, their bodies showed significant increases in telomere length. It's believed that psychological intervention, particularly decreasing stress, has a direct effect on the enzyme telomerase, which has been shown to counteract shortening by adding DNA to the shrinking telomeres. Of course, meditation is not a substitute for other medical advice or a healthy lifestyle. We don't want you leaving this video thinking it will cure cancer. But much like hitting the gym can grow your muscles and increase your overall health, it seems that meditation may be a way of working out your brain with extra health benefits. And since your brain controls, well, all of you, why not relax and say, every once in a while? And if you like working out your brain, be sure to get our ASAP Science book, which is now available for pre-sale at asapscience.com.
Okay, so I'm stopping the commercial part of it, but it is actually a pretty cool website if you want to check it out. Okay, so let me go back to the next screen share. So as you can see, it has not only psychological benefits, but a lot of health benefits. So I wanted, because meditation and mindfulness takes us taking the time to do it, I wanted to do another mindfulness exercise, if you all are comfortable with that. Oops, nope. Sorry. So I guess in the chat, is everyone ready for another mindfulness exercise? Or are you bored of mindfulness at this point? Okay. Okay, so people are ready. All right, so if again, we're gonna come back to our bodies and breath. So if you could notice again how you're sitting, Notice your 2 feet on the ground. This mindfulness practice that we're going to be doing is a mindfulness of breath and body and mind. We often do not give ourselves the gift of focus on our internal state. In order to give to others, we must first give authentically to ourselves in this space. So that is what we are going to do now. So first, I want you to relax your gaze or close your eyes, whichever you're more comfortable with. Again, find the balance in your spine of sitting comfortably without effort. And begin to pay attention to your breath. The breathing in, the breathing out. Just pay attention to your breath. One thing that mindfulness is not about the lack of thoughts that could be flowing through your mind, but just the awareness of it. So if your mind begins to wander from your breath, take notice of it, and without judgment, come back to noticing your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Feel the natural sway of your body with your breath and allow it to move, not fighting against it. Your body is always changing. Being attached to anything about the body as defining us is not helpful. So just continue to breathe and allow your body to move within that breath. Concentrating on the breath allows the brain to quiet and opens our possibilities and appreciation of self as is. There's no judgment or worry about what comes next. It allows our internal and external forces to interact. So as you're breathing, as your mind might be wandering, just notice it and bring your attention back to your breath. Feel the breath coming into your body and going out. What's the temperature of the air coming in versus going out? That oxygen in the air is fueling every cell in your body. The external breath, in turn, is having an impact on the world, which allows equilibrium between your internal state and external state. Focusing on the body and breath can bring you back to the here and now and sustain you in continuing your journey for what is true right now. If your mind begins to wander, bring it back to your breath. Experiencing the power of your body, self, and breath can help bring resilience to keep moving forward. So we're just going to take a couple minutes to concentrate on your breath. If your mind has begun to wander, bring it back to your breath, noticing the breathing in and the breathing out. Start to extend how long it takes to breathe in and breathe out. Coming back into this place in the training, being aware of your body, of your feet supported by the ground, the chair supporting your seat and your back. Start to wiggle your fingers and toes to bring the sensation into the here and now in this room, in this webinar. And we're going to take 2 breaths together, inhaling in and exhaling out for 3 seconds each. Come back together. So we'll inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. Inhale again, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. And as you're ready, if you've closed your eyes, you could open them, keeping a softened gaze, coming back into the space that you are now. This is one of the hardest parts about a webinar, because I don't know who is awake and aware at this moment. So when you're ready, if you could just type in the chat, hello, or any other thought that you want to share with the group. Hello. Welcome back. So Ron's coming back. Thank you for checking in. Okay. So that was just a brief mindfulness activity, just a couple minutes, but it's something that if you are able to do, just take the time to pay attention to your breath, to take that time for 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day can start to heal and increase that parasympathetic response that we have to deal with the stress and cope with everything that we're experiencing today. So as we're ending, there really is another thing about mindfulness is that it exists everywhere. So it doesn't have to be about, like we talked about before, with that mindfulness bingo. And you'll get the PowerPoint afterwards, so you could look at different things that you could do during your day, whether it's chores, whether it's petting an animal, whether it's listening to music. And so Dan Siegel, who wrote a book called The Mindful Brain, has the following quote, which is, mental activities such as purposefully paying attention to the present moment actually stimulate the brain to become active in specific ways that then promote the growth of integrative regions. These neuroplastic changes help us to see the link between mindful awareness and the creation of well-being. So I would love for you all to just be more aware of paying attention to the present moment, which can help us to really increase our well-being as a society. I have this one book that I love. So one of my biggest self-care would be music and dancing, like I said, I think in the beginning of this. So I love that we started off with a little dance party. But I love this book. It's called Mindfulness in Music. And it really talks about how music is not just about music that exists on the radio. Music is all around us. And so one thing that they taught, that I'm just going to read a little passage from here, which says, an important first step is to simply notice what you're experiencing. If you're lying in a field, notice each bee that buzzes overhead. Or if you're riding in the back of a cab, close your eyes, acknowledge each burst of radio babble, and relish in the peace in your head. Ride each wave of sound until you become aware another has begun to drift in your direction. Focusing on the breathing itself, regular and long, moment by moment, will keep you from becoming overwhelmed by sound, or I'll add, by life, however musical or unmusical it appears to be. So I'm going to end with, I don't know if anyone else has heard of Rudy Mancuso. I think he is a current musical genius. And he creates all these videos of he plays, I don't even know how many instruments, 10 instruments we'll say. But one thing that he does in some of his videos is he takes all these sounds that exist in our environment and makes them into a song. And so this one that he did is called Best Elevator Music. So we're going to end with this, just a fun little thing. So here it is.
Taking forever. Thank you so much.
Oh, I didn't mean to stop sharing. So the last slide that I just had was my, oh, let's see, sorry.
So much for watching.
Okay, so self-care plan. So I want you all, I have one more poll to do. Oh, there's one more poll that I would like for you all to do. So I want you all to think about how you are all going to increase your resilience in the next week. So I have one more poll that I'm launching right now. And here it is. If you could think about what you are going to do, whether for your own self-care, whether it's physical self-care, social self-care, psychological self-care, moral and societal self-care. What am I forgetting? All those different self-cares. There's some ideas that you have up here right now. If you could answer in the poll. Do you all see the poll? Okay. And then if there's for other, if there are other things, if you want to put it in the comment box, you can put that in the comment box. But I really want you all to think about what you could do for self-care within the next week. Great, excellent. Some of you are answering multiple things, which is awesome. I'm going to keep this up so you all can look and just really think about what is your self-care plan for the week. Great, we have 71% that have voted. Get in your votes. This is important stuff. This is the most important thing, that we're able to care for ourselves so we can increase our resilience, we can increase our well-being, we can continue to move forward with all the different stressors that we're experiencing at this time. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling. And here are your results. So that's great. 80% of you are going to meditate after today. That's wonderful. Maybe I'm glad to hear that. Exercising also 80%. That's great. Saying self-affirmations for yourself, socializing, advocating, getting education, and some others. And so let me look at if there are any comments and the others that we want to share. Here are some of the resources that I talked about today. There's a lot more. So if you're interested in more resources in terms of mindfulness, the benefits in terms of health, as well as well-being, I can definitely send more if anyone's interested. And that is the end of my presentation for today. So thank you all for attending. I am still here until 12, so love to hear from you all. Painting, baking.
Thank you so much, Kelly. At this time, before we do Q&A, if there's anybody, if you have any questions for Kelly, you could put it in the Q&A chat box, or you can also do the hand thing so that we can unmute you. But before we get to that, we just want to take a little break and do a little, let's see. So Gwenera, would you like us to start us off with our physical activity for this webinar?
Yes. As those of you who have participated in one or more of our segments here during the symposium, you know we recognize the importance of stretching ourselves, rejuvenating ourselves to finish out well. So we're going to take a moment now just to give you an opportunity. I know we had started out with our morning chair dancing. We had some mindfulness and meditation going on midstream, but let's get a little physical. Let's take a couple moments, I shouldn't say moments, a couple of seconds, stand where you are, maybe take a walk to the living room, walk to the bathroom, walk to the kitchen, just to rejuvenate, get your muscles moving. Or if you choose to just be where you are and do some type of yoga in place, stretching, just to kind of adjust that posture, stretch yourselves to kind of awaken yourself again. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that. I'm going to turn my camera off because I am going to stand and stretch. And as you know, has become customary, I'm dressed from the top up. So let me just, let me turn my camera off and I'll be back with you in about 30, 40 seconds, but do take some time to stretch. Okay, hopefully you've had a time to rejuvenate, to stretch, or even dance, whatever was the thing that would help you continue with your day. I want to say thank you again to Kelly. That was so wonderful. And we couldn't have predicted a better day to have a focus on mindfulness and self-care on a rainy, gray, chilly Thursday. So hopefully this not only was beneficial from a perspective of navigating or adapting to COVID-19, but also taking tools or elements that you can implement in your everyday life from this point going forward. Hopefully there was some learning, some new aspects that you can share within, first with yourself, oxygen mask, help yourself first, and then with others, whether it be family, whether it be community, and particularly for those of us that have influence or leadership roles in faith-based houses of worship. So thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you for sticking around, because now we're going to kind of graduate a little bit on what you propose to everyone in the polling of some of the areas that you can take this information and make it personal, make an impact where you are. So would love to hear from you. Particularly, I was looking through the comments, and I love that Demetricia uh, indicated that she would be doing some painting and baking. 'Tis the season for baking, so I'm agreeing with you that that is certainly a way to kind to decompress, practice forms of self-care, but also meditation. I'm thinking of as you're preparing and baking to be mindful of the sounds and the awareness of how all things are coming together with this final product of something that I'm sure your family will enjoy. So let's have the conversation that we typically have. Let's talk about mindfulness first before we get to self-care, of ways that you can implement this for yourself individually. I think I saw someone put in the comments that Etta, I don't mean to call you out, but you said, can my husband use this? Yes, that is an individual goal, is to implement it right within your family. So thank you for sharing that. The greater, it's better when we can come together collectively and put these practices in place. So thank you for sharing that. But would love to hear from a couple of the rest of you regarding some individual goals that you would like to implement, as specific as you would like to be about the takeaway from today's webinar, how you'll be able to implement that on the individual level. Okay, well, I believe when Kelly was referencing some of the different aspects, she talked about social, she talked about physical, we have the mental, we have the professional. There are different areas that we all can participate personally. I see Francis Dixon is ready to offer some insight. Go ahead, Francis. Thank you for joining us this morning.
And good morning to everyone. And let me thank Kelly for such a vibrant presentation. Wonderful job. You kept me engaged and motivated to. I've done meditation in the past and kind of fell off, but because of your presentation and the inspiration you've given me, I will go at it again. I've also I'm going to up my regimen for exercise. So thank you so very much. I needed that this morning, and great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to acknowledge with you that in the early parts of COVID, I know my exercise routine kind of went out the window as well. So we all need these kind of jolts, these jump starts to remind us of the importance of how taking that time. So this is more self-care, to care for yourself gives you that resiliency, provides that energy, that intellect, all that we need to continue to perform or to meet the needs of what we're called to do throughout and as we continue to navigate COVID-19. So thank you for sharing that. We have a comment from Barbara. When everything crazy at work, I use mindfulness just a couple of minutes. Yes, it may not always be able to be 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, but if that 2 minutes can equip you with what you need to sustain and to be well, thank you for sharing that, because sometimes we do want to look at, pockets of time, and 2 minutes can be beneficial as just as much as 15, 20 minutes, particularly in a situation or in the midst of. So thank you for sharing that, Barbara. Thank you for how you will implement that. Do we have comments from anyone else? We're welcome to hear any insight you may have, or reflection that you're doing as you experience this super seminar on mindfulness and self-care. And please feel free to raise your hand. We will grant you permission to speak. We can't see your faces, but we would love to hear your voices. So looking forward to that day when we can always gather again, unrestricted and not inhibited as we are now. So we're welcome to hear your voice or to place your comments in the chat box or Q&A. If you have a question, Kelly is still taking questions. We can address that as well. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions or responses regarding individual goals, would anyone like to offer? Oh, here comes a little one. Who is that, Kelly? That's the mindfulness we need, is to connect with a little one. What is
this is Seamus, otherwise known as Sonic the Hedgehog, and he actually stayed out of my room for the entire presentation. Amazing.
Thank you. Wow, how wonderful is that? And he has he has to check his email, okay? Well, thank you for joining us. Love that. Love his little face. All right. So, any comments about how you plan to implement some of the discoveries you had today or the learnings that you had today in your professional or organizational life, if you will, those aspects of your life? Any comments or reflections there? Okay, so not to delay and recognize that we appreciate your commitment to joining us today, I'm going to turn it back over to Jessica and look forward to seeing everyone this afternoon at our resources fair that starts at 2 o'clock. Jessica is going to give you more information on that. But thank you again, Kelly. Great, amazing presentation. Lots of tools in there, lots for us to continue to ponder and reflect upon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gwenera, and thank you, Kelly, again, for that amazing presentation. I think I got a little too relaxed, but it was good. It was a good thing. All right. Oh, I had a question. Will the presentation be available to send to the participants later? Okay, so I'll send that out to everyone as well through email. Okay, so just to wrap up, a few announcements of our upcoming events at ADAPT. You can actually use your phone, your smartphone, to hover over, use the camera app, open up your camera app and hover over the QR code that you see there, that purplish pinkish code that you see, until you see a website pops up, and then you click on that website, and that should lead you to our Eventbrite ADAPT events. All of our upcoming events are on Eventbrite, as well as on our Facebook page at Essex ADAPT. We have next Wednesday, we have our bi-weekly Incorruptible Essex Youth Meeting. If you're interested in having any youth ages 13 to 18 that live or go to school in Essex County, feel free to email me, and then we can get them an application to join our group. It's an after-school, extracurricular activity. We meet virtually from 6 to 7 every other Wednesday, and it's a great opportunity to talk to the students about substances, prevention, and what we can do in the community to mentor other youth and to implement social media campaigns and other promotional material like that in order to prevent youth from using or continuing to use substances. November 10th is our Interfaith Committee meeting, our next meeting. You're invited to attend if you've never been a part of that. Your new members are always welcome. We will be debriefing about our symposium, as well as talking about what we want to do for our next roundtable training session, which is scheduled in January. November 10th through December 8th at 4 p.m. we're having our for the first time, our virtual WISE class for older adults. This is a 6-week class program. So it's once a week, starting November 10th and concluding on December 8th at 4 p.m., 4 to 5. And if you go on the ADAPT events website, you'll get registration information there. November 12th is our next General Coalition meeting. And we're going to be having a coalition training by Learning to Change. So you don't want to miss that as well. All right, so today's last day. It's been a little adventure meeting you all virtually this year. We're going to conclude with our resource fair this afternoon at 2 p.m. We're going to have 15 various providers in prevention, in substance abuse, substance use disorder, and also mental health resources, treatment and recovery and support services. So you don't want to miss that. And then we'll just conclude with our closing remarks and our raffle for $100 gift card to our local restaurants. We want to support our local restaurants due to COVID impacting our local economy, and especially our restaurants at this time. So we are going to be giving away 3 $100 gift cards, and we invite you to come on out and join us to see if you win. Okay. Okay, so we thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Essex Adapt. Also follow, like, and share us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you about your virtual experience. And after the webinar ends, a survey will appear. If you could just complete that, it's very short, and just to let us know how we did and what we can improve on. Okay, and I thank you so much. I thank our panelist, Kelly Sachter, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you all. Have a great day. See you at 2 o'clock.
My co-host, Gwenira, and my other evening. Thank you so much, and I will see you all later this afternoon. Have a great lunch.